Hello, I'm Jerry Bloom, and in this module I'm going to discuss with you a way of looking at health systems as knowledge economies. I'll start by just introducing what we mean by the health knowledge economy. I'll then take a look at how the health knowledge economy is changing. And finally, in the last part, we'll look at how to analyze the health knowledge economy when thinking about issues of regulation and government intervention. So in this first section, I want to introduce a new way of looking at the health sector as a health knowledge economy. Traditionally, if you think about the health sector, most people think about doctors, health facilities like clinics and hospitals, programs to treat specific diseases. So very much around facilities, commodities, and services. But I want to suggest there's another way of looking at it, as an economy for managing knowledge, ways of making the benefits of expert medical knowledge widely available. This doesn't apply to all parts of the health system, but when we think particularly of outpatient services, consulting a health worker for advice, or buying drugs or other commodities, it applies quite well. And then once we think about it that way, we can look at how it's organized and see that we have really rather complicated arrangements that help people ensure that if they get knowledge and advice, it's reliable and trustworthy. How do they choose what to believe and what not to believe, when to follow the advice and when not? What's the benefit of looking at it this way? Well, it allows us to ask other sorts of questions about the changing nature of both expert knowledge and advice and on how they're made available in the health sector. Questions such as, well, where does this knowledge come from? Who controls the sources of knowledge? How is the knowledge distributed? Who controls the distribution? Who has access? And then one of the key issues, what is government's regulating role? One key way of thinking about how societies have organized their health knowledge economy is in terms of the concept of knowledge asymmetry. That is, there's a large quantity of knowledge, a large number of people claiming to be experts, and those experts know a whole lot more than the people they're providing advice to. Over the years, there's been a very heavy investment in the development of medical science, medical knowledge, the production of textbooks, organization of training institutions. So we now have a very, very big body of knowledge. For anyone to become an expert, it's very costly in terms of time. If people go to medical school and then they work in hospitals, it may take 10 years. And it costs a lot of money to the individuals and to societies. So once someone becomes an expert, provide a very useful service, provide very helpful advice, but they have power and they can use their power for personal gain. They can do it by charging high fees or by convincing people they should buy services that they don't necessarily need. Now, this isn't something that's new to our society. Countries that have had traditional healers and traditional medical systems have always had to organize mechanisms by which those with that kind of expertise both pay attention to the needs of their clients as well as to their personal needs. If we don't have a way to deal with knowledge asymmetry, where people find it difficult to know if someone really knows what they're talking about, they may not be able to get access to the benefits of medical knowledge. We get the so-called race to the bottom. If people don't know who has expertise, it doesn't make much sense to pay a high fee to someone claiming to be an expert. And so they'll go to the cheapest source, probably get not very good advice, and get not very high quality healthcare. On the other hand, if you can identify an expert, but there are no constraints on how they behave, they risk being exploited, paying too much money or buying services they don't need. So all societies have created arrangements that help people benefit from the advice of experts, but protect them from any abuses of power. Over the course of the last century, rather complicated arrangements were made in many, many countries for regulating the health knowledge economy. One very common way is through the establishment of professions and professional regulation, where the professions themselves develop standards of ethics and standards of quality and police their members who don't live up to the standards. And there are trade associations, again, for competence in ethics. Governments themselves have been very instrumental in regulating the pharmaceutical and medical technology sectors. Health facilities very frequently have to become accredited to an authority setting standards in terms of their facilities, in terms of the quality of services. And quite often these days they provide information to regulatory authorities who check that they're performing well. In many countries, there's a very highly organized government health system, or the government provides finance and regulates the health services. So governments play a very key role in ensuring the ethical quality and the standards of services. And in many countries, there's a legal system which enables people to claim compensation for very bad behavior. I think the point about this is really a rather complex set of laws, of rules, of organizations that have evolved over a century or more to enable people to get access to competent advice and services.